24-hour News 8.
Up against a deadline that would have sent our nation into default, both the U.S. Senate and the House have voted to approve a deal to reopen the government. And that bill is now headed to the president. He says he'll sign it immediately.
Here is a look at what this deal does. It reopens the government through January 15th, and it allows the Treasury to borrow money normally through February 7th. The hope is Congress will come up with a long-term deal by December.
And the president spoke moments after the measure was passed in the upper chamber.
Hopefully next time it won't be in the 11th hour. One of the things that I said throughout this process is we've got to get out of the habit of governing by crisis.
Taking it further and joining us live on the phone tonight from Washington, Zeeland Republican Bill Huizenga. He was one of 144 House Republicans who voted against this deal. Congressman, thanks for joining us tonight. I'll be right up front. Was tonight's no vote anything other than political cover for you tonight? Do you think that if you were deciding on this, and if it came down to you on whether the country would default, would your vote have been the same?
Brian, well, good to be with you, and I appreciate the opportunity. And I do need to dispel one thing. It's not like at midnight tonight we would have gone into default. That's a misnomer that the White House has put out there. Not to say that it's not serious and doesn't need to be taken care of. But I agree with the president. We can't keep governing from crisis to crisis. That's why I was willing to negotiate. I moved off of my original position. And this really, I think, is a failure to address our greatest problem, which is our spending. And there's no significant structural changes to that problem.
Would you have preferred to default? And if not, why risk further damage to the economy by holding out for a better deal?
Yeah, no one wants to see any kind of default. That's why I voted time and again to keep the government open. As I had said, I was very willing to look at provisions that would have raised the debt ceiling. But again, we have to look at and just look at recent history. Every single time that we've had a debt ceiling increase, not just with this president, but with President Clinton, President Bush, President Reagan, there's always been some sort of reform attached to it. There's nothing like that in this particular bill. And I'll point out again, as you had in your lead-in, our spending is approved till January 15. Our debt ceiling is raised till February 7. What leads us to think that we're not going to be right back in this situation? I would like to tackle these long-term problems with long-term solutions.
Congressman, do you think that your no vote reflects the wishes of your constituents?
Susan, we got a lot of mixed feedback. People all across the board, though, were very frustrated, and I add myself into this, that they're frustrated that it got to this point. And I think we need to avoid that. But to do that, we need people who are willing to negotiate. And frankly, Harry Reid in the Senate was not willing to do that. He said that time and time and time again. I give the president some credit here. He was willing to come to that, but the Senate Majority Leader, Harry Reid, was not willing to do that.
Congressman, do you consider yourself a member of the Tea Party?
No, I was not exactly following in that Tea Party steps. I think that's, again, trying to have some sort of label that the other side is using as a pejorative term. And am I Tea Party minded? Absolutely, if it means that we need to make sure that we have sensible spending and a long-term vision of where this country is going.
Why do you think it's so difficult to find compromise within your own party?
Yeah, we have different ideas, and same thing with the Democrats. I'll point out when we were passing these short-term spending bills, these spending bills that we sent over 20 of them to the Senate, which, by the way, we took over 20 votes in the House. Harry Reid had one in the 16 days that we were shut down. One vote with our over 20 votes. And we had anywhere from 25 up to almost 40 Democrats voting on a bipartisan fashion for those things. And I think that is the kind of thing that we need to do. Unfortunately, Harry Reid wasn't willing to do that over in the Senate.
Congressman, after about 16 days of a shutdown, it doesn't appear to me that the Republicans really got anything out of this. How do you move forward after this?
Yeah, Susan, I think that is part of the frustration. As I said before, there's no significant structural changes to the problem that we have moving forward, and we can't keep governing crisis to crisis. So we need to get in. We need to take this time and negotiate and come up with, again, a long-term solution. And that is my goal. And that I've been working morning, noon, and night to do that. Unfortunately, they came up with a solution that didn't hit some of those basic marks. And I'll say the one main issue I think that we need to address is the number of carve-outs, including one for Congress and staff, that the people that crafted the bill, that wrote the bill, that voted for the bill, now don't want to live under the provisions of the bill. And I think that just does nothing but build cynicism between the government and the people that put them there. And that's something that was very heavy on my vote, not having the House and the Senate and, frankly, the White House live under the provisions that they wrote into the bill that everyone else is going to have to live under with Obamacare.
Congressman Bill Huizenga, thanks for stepping up tonight and answering our questions. We appreciate you joining us live.
All right, thanks, guys.